verses 1 and 2. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters.
About the size of a fist. Right here in the center of our bodies. Our hearts. Beating, beating, beating. Pulsing, 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 pulsing. Sending blood circulating through our bodies, taking oxygen, nutrients, life into our tissues, transporting waste out of the cells. And this organ in the center of our bodies, beating, 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 pulsing, pulsing, pulsing. Our hearts. Some of us know a lot about our hearts. Some of us just know we have one and hope it keeps going. We know we don't live unless that heart keeps beating, beating, pulsing, pulsing, sending the blood through our system. The Greek word for heart in the Bible is cardia. Therefore, a lot of us know that there's that doctor called the cardiologist, and that comes from the Greek. And some of us are more familiar with that particular medical specialty than others. When we look at the Greek and Hebrew words for heart in the Bible, they're used about 700 times, but very, very rarely do they refer specifically to that organ in our body or the organ in the bodies of other animals. Most of the time, the heart is referred to in the Bible as the center of our being, the heart of our thoughts, our actions, our wills, our emotions. And so when we think of heart, we have many different aspects of heart, and we're going to talk about those over the several weeks. But one of those aspects of heart we think of as the essence, the center, the just, the focus. And we talk about it that way. Sometimes we'll say, well, get to the heart of the matter. Get to that center. Get to what's really important. Or talk about, well, what's the heart of your reasoning, your argument? What are you trying to say? As I begin to think about this aspect of heart and that beating, that pulsing, that coursing through us, I begin to think about, what about the heart of God? Do we know the essence of God? And I'm pretty sure the answer is, yeah, we do. But at the same time, I begin to think maybe we need to remind ourselves about the heart of God. Beating, beating, pulsing, pulsing in our lives and all of creation. For the next few weeks, I want us to talk about Bible basics, knowing the heart of God. Now, we're not going to talk everything about God, but we are going to talk some about God. And so in Bible basics, we're starting at the beginning. Genesis 1. Real creative, John. Genesis 1 is probably not the first part of the Bible ever written. In fact, scholars tell us probably at least parts of the book of Job was probably the first recorded part of the Bible. In fact, Genesis 1 was probably written sometime in the 8th century BC when the nation of Israel was in exile in Babylon. Now, Babylon at the time was known as the world power. They were in charge of the world. Not just a little bitty area. They were in charge of the known world of the time. They had invaded Israel. They'd taken people out of Israel. The people of Israel were living in exile in Babylon. And more than likely, these verses were written for the nation of Israel when they were living under the oppression of the Babylonian Empire. Political, military, oppressive. And the writer of these words said, remember that no matter what, in the beginning, when God created. And so we hear these words from Genesis 1. In the beginning, when God created. We can hear that clearly. I mean, in the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and the darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. In the beginning, when God created. Now we can hear that easily, and it certainly sounds like, and it's appropriate to hear, that when God created from nothing. When God created, in the beginning, the first part of creation was formless and void. God is creator. However, in the Hebrew, these words can just as readily be translated in a little different way that gives a little different focus on what it's saying. From the Jewish translation of the Bible, it goes like this. When God began to create the heaven and earth, the earth was a formless void. A little different focus. When God began to create, it seems that matter was already in existence in this translation. When God began to create, something was already there, and God formed that something into God's creation. So we have a couple of different ways of understanding. God created from nothing, made it happen, or there was already something, and God created and formed that something into creation as we know it. Which one of these is right? I mean, that God created from nothing, or there was already something and God created it. Which one are we supposed to say, well, this way or that way is correct? Well, the answer is easy. Yeah, they both are.
Right, politician.
Both views are right. God is a mystery. We cannot put God in a box. God created from nothing. And what was already there, God created. It doesn't make any difference. They're both right. And what we need to focus on, God creates. God is creating, and God will always be creating. Now, this is not the only story of creation we have. There are lots of other stories. Lots of other stories of creation. However, this is our story, the Jewish Christian story of creation, and the story differs from most other creation stories, and that most other creation stories have the divine being somehow using violence to pull creation, pull the existence of human beings out of some other evil entity. This is much different. Look how creation unfolds in this story. In the beginning, when God created, or when God began to create, how did God do it? Pretty simple. God created by speaking. God said. That's how creation happened. God said. But it's particularly important to hear exactly what God said in creating. When God spoke, did God command? Did God direct? Did God yell? Did God scream? God spoke and simply said, "Let it be. Let there be light. Let there be a dome. Let there be two lights in the sky. Let us create human beings in our image." God spoke and said, "Let it be." And in God's permission, creation happened. God did not manipulate. God did not force. God simply issued permission and gave the ability, the strength, the love, and the life, and said, "Let it be." I hope you'll read. I've got it here. I was going to read it to you, but I'm not going to. So your assignment is either, school time, your assignment is to either read Genesis 1:1 through 2:3. That's the first creation story. Second creation story starts at 2:5. You can read to 2:4 if you want to. But your assignment is not only to read that, but to read it aloud. And if you have children, you can read it aloud to them. And just let it flow. I mean, beautiful scripture. In fact, it was probably written to be a liturgy and worship. In the beginning, when God created the heaven and earth, and there was the first day, and there was the second day, and there was the third day, the fourth day, the fifth day, the sixth day. And on the seventh day, God rested. Not because God was tired, but God rested in the sense that creation was good and God had blessed it. And God had said, "Let it be." Now, God didn't just spin it into creation and let it go and not have anything to do with it. But God said, "I trust the process of love. I trust the process of my speaking and giving permission for creation to happen. I trust the process to keep on going." Knowing the heart of God is knowing the God of creation and creativity, and knowing the God who speaks, and knowing the God who offers permission. Now we might like to say, "Well, I really want to know the heart of God. So how can I see God?" Oh, it says right here in the text. how we can see God. We can see God in all of creation. Please, as you read Genesis 1:1 through 2:3, please, as you read this text, notice that all creation is important to God. All creation. Every aspect of creation. God cares for all of creation just as much as any other part of creation. Every little bit of creation is important to God. God created it all. No one part is any more important than the other. However, simultaneously, when God said, "Let us create humans in our image," God did something magnificent. And if you want to see God, look in the mirror. Look at your neighbor. Look at your family. Look at your friends. Look at other people. If you want to see God, look at your enemy. If you want to see God, look at those people who are delightful people and so successful and doing so well. Look at them if you want to see God. If you want to see God, look at that person or those people you know who you say, man, they are a total, complete mess. Just look at them and you'll see God. Because in the midst of it all is the God who loves us and continues to create and speak the word and simply say, let. Let us join together in our communion prayer. You are